everyone, and welcome to this tribute to a man who has touched all of our lives. Stanley Martin Lieber, better known as Stan Lee, passed away Monday, November 12th. The cause of death is still unknown at this time. We will have a rotating panel of guests to talk about the man, myth, legend. But first, I wanted to talk to our producer, Andy Johnson, about the reasoning behind this tribute. Andy, this is a day we never wanted to come.
That's very true. I've been hoping this day would never come with me being producer of Nerd Central, but it has come, and it's not easy. This feels just exactly like when Carrie Fisher died. Like there's no words. But yeah, so we'd probably do this on our show, but so a little bit of transparency. We film on Fridays, and with Thanksgiving coming up, we won't air our show until after Thanksgiving. So this would just be another footnote. And I said, no, this needs to happen. Like, we need to do something to honor this guy, this great man who created a lot of things that we all hold dear in this show. So I said, I got the news this afternoon, and I just said, okay, we need to do something. This is the best night to do it because, it's fresh in everybody's minds. We're still trying to get through it. And yeah, I was like, can I get anybody to be on it? Like, I don't care if you're on my show. I don't care if you're a sports guy. As long as you like Avengers or Spider-Man or Fantastic Four or any of the Marvel characters, I wanted you on to talk about your impact, like how much Stan Lee has impacted you.
And we will do that. We will be right back with some more guests to talk about Stan Lee. Stay with us. Hello and welcome back. Joining Andy and myself is Nolan and Caleb, here to talk about their experiences with Stan Lee. Andy, why don't you tell us your experience first?
Yeah, so mine kind of starts with film, mostly in film. I'm a huge film junkie, and it starts with Sam Raimi, but basically Sam Raimi's Spider-Man and Bryan Singer's X-Men. Like, they came out about the same time. I saw Spider-Man. Basically, I latched on to Spider-Man because, as you guys can tell, I'm not the biggest of people. Like, I can't be Thor. Like, I can't be Captain America. I can't be Iron Man. I could if I'm rich, but I looked at Spider-Man and I said, that kind of looks like me. Like, I kind of gravitated to him because I was like, I could be him. So, and then, the other movies came out, the sequels and all those came out, and I always saw the guy. Like, I'm like, who's that guy? Like, he's in every single movie, and everybody's just like, oh, that's Stan Lee. He's the creator of basically the entire Marvel universe. And I'm like, I need to figure this out. Like, I need to know all the characters, and and then the Fantastic Four movies came out, and I was like, I mean, they're good. They're not great. They're there now. I know that now. And then the Marvel Cinematic Universe came out, and I saw him, and I'm like, this is exactly what he wanted. Like, in the comics, his characters come together, fight evil that is too big for one person, and this is what he wanted us to create. And he wanted. Wow, I got choked up.
But okay.
He wanted the biggest movies every year to be Avengers or any Marvel movie because that's what we want. It's those characters. Nothing against DC, and it's nothing because of DC creating. Their cities are based off of actual cities, but they're not the actual cities. And Marvel decides to put their characters in real life, so it makes it feel like if we go to New York, we'll see Avengers Tower, we'll see Spider-Man swinging around, we'll see Iron Man flying through the buildings, we'll see the Defenders you know, protecting Harlem and Hell's Kitchen and all that kind of stuff. Like, we'll see these characters around, and it makes them more grounded. And the way that he writes the characters, just they were made to be on the film. Like, he fleshes them all out. Yes, he's had 50, 60 years to flesh out the characters, but the way that he fleshes them out and the way that other people have been able to interpret his characters is just, I mean, yes, there are a few bumps along the way with movies, but for the most part, his movies, his TV shows, you know, anything that's based off of his characters just bring everybody that I know of, they bring joy to everybody, even though at the end of Infinity War, it doesn't end really well, and it's just, yeah, I'm still not getting over that. But and him in particular, he and all of his characters are the main reason why I created Nerd Central. Well, at least the concept of Nerd Central, because there was a entertainment, you know, there was an entertainment show on KNWT before this, but I said, you know what, comic books are the in thing now. Stan Lee is the reason for that, and I said that's what we need to be the show. The show needs to be all about the nerds. It needs to be all about comic books. It needs to show Stan Lee respect, and it needs to know. People when they see the show, they need to know who the godfather is of the show, and that's Stan Lee. And there's nobody that can defend that, like not defend that can argue with that. Like that's who it is.
You're absolutely right. Nolan, your thoughts?
I mean, my beginnings are pretty much the same as Andy's, you know, going and seeing those first few Spider-Mans and really getting attached to, I mean, obviously I wasn't in high school like he is in the movies, but, you know, as I grew older, I became more attached to those because you can really identify with somebody who's a little bit closer to your age and who's a superhero and is doing everyday life like you are until he's the superhero. And that just kind of adds a little bit extra to it. And I don't know, when I was growing up, it was constantly, you know, wanting the superhero toys, not G.I. Joe, not anything like that. I wanted a Hulk action figure or Iron Man action figure, anything like that. And Stan Lee really brought it home. You know, you can get attached to the characters, but as soon as I really started looking into Stan Lee, where he started from, where his ideas came from, what they've really panned out to be overall, that's really what got me fully attached. And that's pretty much similar to Andy, you know, just finding out the little bit of extra details about those movies, about the comic books, about anything in that entire universe he's created really was amazing for me. It was another world that I could go to. You know, I'm mostly a sports guy, but by God, I'll sit down and I'll watch every Marvel movie if I have to, and it's worth every single second. It's going to be tough not seeing him after Far From Home. You know, it's going to be real tough not to wait for that little cameo that he gets, but, you know, I'm sure he's at rest. I mean, he was 95 years old. That's pretty good life. So I know he's at rest, and if he was in pain, he's not anymore. So I'm glad to see that the creator of such an amazing universe is at peace. I hope that other people can get as attached to him as we all are, because I mean, it's worth it. It's like I've been saying, it's just this other world that you can go to, and it's unimaginable. There's so many different possibilities that can come out of it, and it's just so cool, and I'm going to miss him a whole bunch.
Thank you. Caleb?
Unlike much like these two, I also got started with the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, but first real incarnation that I got with Stan Lee was my dad gave me some of his old comic books when I was younger, and he said, here, read these, you might like these. So it's like, year after year, it's like he'd get me a new comic book for Christmas or my birthday. It's like, here's another Stan Lee one. It's like, got attached to seeing, well, this guy, much like Andy said, was building this universe on paper. Never could have thought in 1,000 years that this would have turned into such the media mogul it's become with all the movies, the toys, and everything. And much to my mom's displeasure, I own several of the action figures. Like Nolan wanted she says, these aren't worth money, and I'm like, they are to me. They're special. They have a special meaning thanks to Stan Lee and everything that he helped build that basically was my childhood. And I'm sure it was mostly Nolan and Andy's childhood as well.
Can I say one more thing?
You may, yes.
6 years ago when the first Avengers movie came out, in that mid-credit scene when I know now it's Thanos, when he turns around, I was one of those people that's like, who's that? Like, I was confused about who that was. And now 6 years later, after really diving deep into into Stan Lee's characters and all that kind of stuff, 6 years later at the end of Infinity War, when Nick Fury is sending that pager to Captain Marvel, I kid you not, I was the only person that was cheering. So I've been turned from being somebody who doesn't know anything about the comics to somebody who dives deep into that and knows exactly, because all we got from the Infinity War was the logo. Mm-hmm. And I instantly knew that. I was like, that's Captain Marvel. I'm excited because I know what's coming. Mm-hmm. And everybody else around me was like, why did you cheer? Like, who's that? And I'm like, look it up on your phone. That's what I did that's what I did 6 years ago. You do the same. And then 6 years from now, come talk to me, and we'll share this moment in 6 years that I did today. It was a surreal moment when I realized that.
Well, thank you, boys. You all had beautiful thoughts. We will be right back with some more guests. Please stay with us. Welcome back, and we have 3 new special guests. We have Corey, Kramer, and Cody here to share their remarks. Corey, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, so like many people, I got introduced to Marvel and Stan Lee through the Tobey Maguire rendition of Spider-Man. And honestly, I can credit that to partially why I'm a journalism major. In fact, even me and my roommate have an ongoing joke that J. Jonah Jameson is the most ethical journalist to ever not live. And that would have been possible without Stan Lee. But the moment I really kind of knew who Stan Lee was the second Fantastic Four movie, where Invisible Woman and Mr. Fantastic are getting married, and they wouldn't let him into the wedding. And he's like, but I'm Stan Lee. I'm Stan Lee. Yeah. And so, I mean, from there, it just kind of grew. I didn't really get into, superheroes really much until college and joining Nerdmageddon. So, I just recently, really got attached to Stan Lee, outside of the movie. So I'm like, this is a rough time. Yeah.
Kramer?
So I didn't actually start watching it with the Spider-Man series. X-Men, my favorite all time. And it's just starting out from there, and then also reading the comics, because I like reading the comics more than I watching the movies right now. Picking up a Deadpool and Cable, the entire book of that classic. And same with Gambit. I'm a huge Gambit fan. It's just it just goes down the list of all these different characters and all what his mind wanted people to hey, there's something like this, or there's something like this other guy that he can do whatever he wants to do. And a funny Stan Lee moment for me is the very first Lego Marvel Superheroes video game. You have to save him the entire time, somewhere out throughout the map, and he's either dangling in a cobweb, probably trapped underneath a fire hydrant or something like that. It's just great. It's just wow. This morning, hearing it.
It hurts a lot. Cody?
I started with the 90s Spider-Man cartoon. Yeah, it's really rough. First things first, reality, it really sucks sometimes, and Stan Lee gave us a way to escape from that. And it's just so amazing that when you're overwhelmed by everything, you can pick up a book with characters who might actually be going through the same thing as you. Spider-Man's a perfect example. He goes through grief when Gwen dies. He goes through several relationships. He just balancing high school with everything. And the thing is, everybody argued with Stan Lee that Spider-Man would never work. They kept telling him no, and then his series that he was working on, Amazing Fantasies, was going to get shut down. And then he was like, screw it, I'm doing what I want if it's going to get shut down anyway. Bestseller of the Amazing Fantasy series, Spider-Man's first intro. And then everybody who was telling him it would never work, they were calling him up. He was like, hey, can you do a few more of those Spider-Man things? They worked out really well. And I was watching things earlier, and there was this quote from him, and there was a time where he felt embarrassed that he was just a comic book writer, that he wasn't doing anything that made a difference in the world. And then he realized, yeah, he's not a doctor or a lawyer, but he gives people a place where they can be happy, where they aren't satisfied with the real life, and so they can escape to a comic book and hang out with Spider-Man for a little bit, and it's a good time. Like, who I am today is 100% because of Marvel and Stan Lee. Like, if he hadn't created Spider-Man, if he hadn't given up, this man is actually a superhero in real life, just like them. He never gave up when everybody was telling him that, no, this isn't gonna work. He pulled something else out of the hat, and it created an icon, and it's really rough. Like, without Stan Lee, if he had given up, if he'd just gone to medical school like he thought he should have, I wouldn't be me, and many others wouldn't. There wouldn't be the MCU, there wouldn't be the Raimi universe, there wouldn't be the games. Everything would be extremely different, and now that he's gone, it's like, wow. This one man impacted the world so hard.
He absolutely did, and I believe he was an inspiration to not just you, Cody, but to all of us here, and everyone at Nerd Central, and everyone watching this, and we're very thankful for that. So thank you for your comments, and we will be right back with some more Yes. Hello and welcome back. We have our final guest, James, and returning guests, Andy and Caleb, for moral support and tissues. James, would you please share?
Like a lot of people on here, my introduction that have been on tonight, my introduction to Stan Lee would have to be the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man films. That's where I got my start, along with watching some of the older 90s and 80s cartoons. Spider-Man the Animated Series was a staple at my house growing up. And like a lot of people, I was one of those kids that really loved Marvel toys. I had the Hulk fist. My bedding was Spider-Man. Like, if you walked in my room, it was like mini New York everywhere, just because I love Spider-Man so much. And after finding out that Stan passed away earlier today, the idea that not all superheroes come with capes has been playing in my mind all day, because he truly was a hero. He gave us so much in terms of hope and truth, and saying that, yeah, you may be different, but you can still go out there and be a hero every single day. Whether that's you putting on a costume, or being a police officer, or a firefighter, or a teacher. He just said, like, no matter what, you can still go out there and be a hero to someone. And that really resonated with me from a young age, because growing up, I was the nerdy kid that nobody really liked. So I took a lot of solace in going to comic books and saying, oh, there are people like me out there that become these amazing people, like Spider-Man and Iron Man, and showing, like, intelligence shows that can be a strength even if you don't have super strength or can fly or any superpowers, and just showed me that I can be my own hero. He was such an inspiration on my life. He helped set me down the path I am on now. His inspiration is the main reason
I'm almost done becoming a teacher because I want to be one of those heroes that doesn't have a cape, that inspires people to go out there and do the things that they want to do and be the people that they are meant to be. And honestly, I don't know where we're going to be without him. Honestly, and just thinking about all the various cameos he's done, one of my favorites would have to be at the end of Captain America Civil War, going, "I've got a package for Tony Stank." It's like, that's by far my favorite. And just the overall message that not all heroes wear capes. It has resonated very truly with Stan Lee, and wherever he is and whatever he may have personally believed in, I hope he's somewhere where he realizes how loved he was by people across the world, and that he finally has the cape that he deserves, because he's been a hero not only to the people sitting on this couch and everybody that's been here tonight, but to everyone that has ever needed someone to say, you are an important human being and you can be your own hero, regardless if you are fat, skinny, tall, short. And no matter what, you can find the hero within you and go out there and make a difference in the world. So honestly, I'm forever grateful to everything that Stan Lee has ever done, and I'm going to miss him incredibly a lot, because he played such a key role in me becoming the person I am today. And I'm literally going to just be like, Marvel's never going to be the same again without this legend. And he's going to live on, and someday I have a feeling when my kids are going to be like, who's Stan Lee? I'm going to be like, listen, this is the guy that set me down the path I'm on today. And this guy was an amazing man. You would have loved to have met him. That's my one regret. I wish I could have met Stan Lee. That's one of my biggest regrets right now, because I wish I could have met him and just said thank you to all the amazing things that he's done and just how much joy he's imparting on this world. And I know he will forever be missed, not only by the people that are here at Nerd Central and on any program that talks about comic books or anything, but he's going to be missed across the world.
Absolutely. Thank you. Boys, do you have any final thoughts that you'd like to share?
This hurts almost as much as when Carrie Fisher died. Everybody here knows that I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and when Carrie Fisher died, there wasn't anybody around me, except for I guess my family was there, but nobody that my family that I got to choose, nobody that I get to say, this is my family. Nobody around me, nobody was around me like that. So when she died, I was like, I don't know how to function. I've only seen Star Wars with Princess Leia in it. Now I have to worry about what's Marvel going to be without Stan Lee. We know this was inevitable. We knew that, I knew that at some point in my life I was going to have to see this legend, have seen this legend fall, but to have it now, and now I'm just worried, I know Marvel is in a safe place. I know, Disney's taking really good care of it, and I know that everything they do is spot on, and it's exactly what the fans want. But without their ringleader, what are they gonna I don't see a Marvel without Stan Lee, and it's just very weird.
I went through a similar thing when Leonard Nimoy died a few years ago, because he was such a key figure in the Star Trek franchise. It was just like, what are we gonna do without Spock? So I get it.
Caleb?
To go off of what you said about Spock, I remember I was in sociology class in high school, and somebody sent me a message like, Leonard Nimoy just passed away. And I didn't believe it, because TMZ reported it the same way they did with Stanley. And I'm like, I'm checking other sources. This can't be true. This can't be true, because besides Stan Lee, Star Trek had a profound aspect of my life with my dad. He grew up a Trekkie. He introduced me to what they'd meant. Same way with Andy with Star Wars. My dad also introduced me to that. It's like those are the big three icons of my childhood. They helped form who I am today. And every Marvel movie that's come out to date for the MCU, I've gone and seen with my dad, and I always wear my Iron Man t-shirt that I got right before the first Avengers came out. It's like every Marvel movie, I sit in the exact same spot, the exact same thing. I always sit with my dad, and it's like middle of the movie, it's like, see that, you see that from the comic books, and he'll be like, yeah, I see it. And it's like, it's got a special moment. It's like all these icons have shaped who I am and helped grow this bond between me and my dad.
I actually share the same experience with my father. Ever since I was little, I've always been the kid who was into superheroes and all the, cliche nerdy stuff and not like the Barbies and dress up stuff. So, yeah. And so having that moment with my father and just seeing movies like Captain America and Spider-Man together has been an experience to this day. And I know that wouldn't have happened had we not had these amazing characters created by Stan Lee. And, I've learned so much, just like life lessons in general, like the whole "with great power comes great responsibility" line. I say that all the time, and I think that line all the time. And so I guess he has guided my moral values in his own way. And it's been a great time, and it's been a good time to share with everyone. But it's time that we end this show. So, Excelsior and goodbye.